Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Pot of Gold podcast, where we talk about real estate investing, wealth generation, and financing. Today on the show, we have Monique Aranda. She's the CEO of Sellafast Home Solutions and is also a real estate advisor. She also happens to be part of the coaching group that I'm in called the Growth Co. And so we have her on today to tell us a little bit about her story and how she got started in real estate investing and the things that she's doing today. How are you doing today, Monique?
Hi, good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you here on the show.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm usually on the other side of the screen, being the host, so this is a little different.
Well, it's definitely a pleasure to have you on here. Basically, what we do here on the show is we find out exactly what it is that people are doing to get their businesses off the ground and be successful, and whether it's in real estate or just commercial stuff that they're doing. Kind of gives the idea to people who might be looking to get started in those spaces, the direction they can take. So we'd love to be able to hear about how you got started. What drove you to make the decision to get into real estate investing?
Okay. Oh, well, it's a little bit of a story, I must say. Um, it actually was an imprint on me when I was a child. So, I had a set of grandparents that were fortunate enough to be able to buy some properties. And just for preference or background, we don't come from money. It just was this once in a lifetime situation that happened that gave them this opportunity. And as a child, of course, I didn't really know what that meant or understood. I just know that they had different houses, and I would hear about my grandpa having to go fix stuff at different houses. And so when I went to, or when I became an adult and I purchased my own home, and that's when I really understood about the value of real estate and what my grandparents actually were able to achieve through real estate. And so that kind of gave me, I guess, the inspiration that, if they were able to do it and they didn't have the resources, but they just made a smart decision with this one opportunity, that I should be able to do it as well. So I actually bought my first rental, I think it was 15 years ago, something like that. That was my first one. And it was challenging in the beginning. I didn't really know what I was doing. And plus, it's out of state. And so over time, though, as we all know with real estate, mortgages get paid down, you get more cash flow. And then, it just ended up being, falling into that golden rule of where it doubled in its value within the 7 to 10 period, which is common for most markets and depending where you are. So, in trying to, I guess, keep with my dream, if you will. Fast forward to today, where I've been working in a profession that I would say has not been as exciting as the thought of real estate investing to me. And I've been working in this profession for 25 plus years now. And so came to a point recently where I just felt kind of stuck and stagnant and was ready for something more different. And so that's where, this passion inside of me for real estate started to kind of creep up again and grow. And so because of that, I actually joined a mentorship before sub two. So I'm now in sub two, but I joined a mentorship before then and learned all about creative financing. And while I was in that mentorship, I learned a whole lot. It was a very valuable experience. However, I felt like I was still missing some support or missing some resources. And so that's when I got on Facebook and ended up stumbling across Pace and the free community. And when I looked at the free community, I was so blown away. I was like, oh, wow. If this is the free version, like what does the paid version look like? Right. And so I decided to jump in and been in the sub 2 community for 1.5 years now. And had the most amazing experience. This community has changed my life. I've met so many amazing people like yourself, where we're interested in growing, learning, becoming better versions of ourselves, and interested in investing one way or another in a very supportive community. And so after I joined, I was, I would say, a little over ambitious and ready to get into my next property. And I did purchase another property. And this time it was, this was out of state as well. So both of my properties are out of state. And and so purchased that and was looking to try out a new strategy, investing strategy that never done before, which was the wrap strategy, selling it on a wrap. And boy,
Okay.
I learned a bazillion lessons from that. And so, and so this is where I am. And now I'm at the point where I want to really figure out how to ramp up, scalability and really grow the portfolio a lot quicker than I have in the past.
I like that. It's always good to be able to identify where you're at and then look how you can grow again. For those of you who don't know, or for those in the audience, why don't you explain exactly what it is that a wrap entails? Could you do that for
Oh,
us?
yeah, most definitely. So it's where you have a property with a current loan at a certain percent. So let's say it was, lucky enough to get the COVID rate at 3%. And then you look for a homestead buyer, which is, a regular, most of the time conventional type buyer that normally would not be able to qualify for a conventional loan for one reason or another, and doesn't necessarily mean that they have bad credit or anything of that means. Sometimes it could mean that they are business owners, and unfortunately, a lot of business owners have a hard time getting conventional loan. And so when you do resell it per se, you would sell it at a higher interest rate than the underlying interest rate. So let's say for this example, we might sell it at a 6% interest rate. And so you're wrapping around the wrap mortgage around the original mortgage. So that's what that strategy is.
And so basically what you're doing is you're taking the difference in the two interest rates as your
Cash
cash
flow.
flow.
Exactly. And then just like a conventional home, like you're just being the lender and they own the home. So all of the repairs, issues, anything that comes up with the home would fall on them. So it's kind of in a way a landlord free type of situation, with the exception of, if there are non-payment issues, then you have to go through some kind of recourse process, and depends on how you did the contract, which way that would work. Most of the time it would be a foreclosure, but there's other options too.
Okay. Very interesting. Sure, that's definitely useful in certain scenarios.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, for sure.
well, you also mentioned that you bought your first property about 15 years ago. I think that puts that around the same time as the big real estate crisis. Did you have any experience with what was going on at that time?
um Gosh, it was around that time, and I'm trying to remember. It was right before the crash. Yeah.
Okay. And so you
And
managed to keep a hold of that asset through the whole scenario, huh?
I was, and actually, um, I had another asset at the time. In that one, we basically had to short sale because we couldn't do anything with it.
Okay. Yeah.
So we
That happened
lost
to a
that
lot of
one.
people, you know?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I like that. I've heard of the wrap strategy before, but I hadn't actually spoken to anyone who had done it successfully yet. So, what exactly were the details on the one that you did? Was it, you said it was out of state, right?
Yeah, it was out of state. I actually didn't get to a contract for a wrap, so I ended up diverting to long-term rental on that one.
Okay.
Had to use my backup plan.
Yeah. You made the attempt though, huh?
I made the attempt, yeah. So my biggest, learning from that process was, well, maybe two things. One is probably more successful if you're in the area. So that way you can do a lot of kind of in-person marketing. I heard that, going around to a lot of local independent businesses is very successful. So like hair salons or restaurants, stuff like that, and kind of trying to get to the business owners and self-employed people. And then two, which I say would probably be the biggest overall tip I would advise for your audience is if I were to do it again, I would find somebody that is already executing the wrap disposition process consistently or successfully. So, unbeknownst to me, I've heard, oh, once you post it up, you're going to get a lot of hits or a lot of requests or interest, which I did, but most of them were not even close to the numbers I was looking at. There were a lot of prospects that were thinking they were going to have this big, huge, beautiful home for like $1,100 a month. And I was like, what planet are you on? Not this one.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
So, yeah.
I think
So,
we're in a townhouse for about 1,800 a month right now. So it's only 2 bedrooms.
yeah. So it was, well, it's one thing to rent it, but like to think you're going to buy it at a rental rate is kind of a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
weird. I was surprised to see that many people are just not in reality, I guess. But anyways, so yeah, too much time just went by. And so I just, like I said, diverted to my backup option.
Well, it's always good to have more than one exit strategy because you don't know if the main one's going to flop for some reason or another.
Right, right.
Very cool. I like that. As far as the advice that you've given already about finding someone who's successfully doing that strategy, and basically what you're implying is to like partner with them on a deal instead of just doing it by yourself, right?
Oh
I
yeah,
understand
most
that correctly?
definitely. Yes, partner with them. Like, again, learning from the past, um, I think I would have felt a lot more successful partnering with someone, even if it was 50-50 or maybe in a different structure, for the cash flow, just to be able to go through that process and complete it and be exposed to, how they do it and all the connections and people that they work with. So I would 100% recommend that. Again, if you're trying to do something new and different, specialized that you've really never done before. It's about the who, not the how.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way to think about it. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the other question that might come up, I guess, here is that exactly how are you financing a deal like this? I know about creative real estate and things like that nature and sub two through Pace Morby, but is that how you acquired this property that you intended to wrap? Was it through some kind of subject to loan or?
Right. It was a subject to loan. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so the subject to loan is basically just taking over the payments for another person's mortgage.
Right.
Then you get the deed in your name, so you own the property, but you're paying their debt for them.
Right. Exactly.
And
And then
then,
you normally get in at a lower entry rate than you would for a conventional property.
And you don't have to worry about getting qualified with a bank
Right.
because you're doing this deal between you and the seller.
Exactly. So, yeah, this is not on any credit bureau credit record at all whatsoever.
And then on your exit side, what you're looking to do is take that mortgage that you're paying on for this seller, and then you're going to create a new note that wraps around it to get the difference in the interest rate.
Yep, that's the plan. I'm still gonna attempt to get it done. It's just I need to recoup some cost a little bit.
Yeah, because even though you're taking over somebody else's mortgage and you're doing this wrap, there's still things that are going to be involved with other costs of doing business, like closing costs and
Yep.
like maybe
Mm-hmm.
lender's fees if you end up bringing on a private money lender on board.
Mm-hmm.
The other things like loan origination documents, you have to pay a real estate attorney to draft those for you,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
or a transaction coordinator who might be able to help you keep all of the processes and due dates in order.
Right. And that's the one thing also I would highly recommend for anybody doing um, a real estate deal is to acquire your own transaction coordinator. I believe the agent had their own transaction coordinator, but they're looking out for themselves and you want somebody to also be looking out for you. So that was money well spent because they made sure that all the key documents were completed and signed. And it's kind of interesting because I would talk to other people afterward about their experience, and they would say, "Oh, I didn't get the power of attorney signed, or I didn't get this signed, or I don't even have, the social security number, the last four numbers, so I'm stuck." And I'm like, "Oh man." I'm like, all of my paperwork could seem like it was done right. So I was, yeah, that's another tip. Get that transaction coordinator.
Yeah, they really smooth out all the bumps in the road. They can't fix everything for you, of course,
No.
because sometimes things just pop up, but they definitely make your life a lot easier than it would be if you didn't have them around.
Yep, most definitely. Most definitely.
Okay, so that's interesting. And you've had a couple of different rentals and experiences with that. I'm kind of curious. Did you ever run into any kind of big, hairy problem that you took a long time to resolve or you learned an important lesson from as you were doing this?
Well, I guess in what sense? So the one that just comes to mind is that tale old story of the horrible renter that trashed the house. Is that what you're kind of
No,
talking about?
anything you can think of. I mean, we're looking for experience so that we can learn and maybe try to avoid similar mistakes,
Yeah. So this was during COVID. And I'm not sure exactly what happened with the tenant, but all of a sudden stopped paying their rent. And we were actually stalled with going through the eviction process because they were saying that they received like a grant or something with all the COVID, resources that were happening at that time. And it kind of never came through. And so that was a little bit, I guess, of a learning lesson as well, but hopefully a one-time learning lesson. I hope none of us have to go through that again ever.
Over and
So
over, right?
yeah. But anyways, they left the house trashed. I had carpets at the time trashed. The walls were, either really stained dirty, some holes in some places. Doors were all messed up. So I basically did a little mini rehab on that house after they left.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's interesting that you had a similar experience. I think that might be one of those experiences that might, looking for the word here, discourage someone from wanting to become a landlord and get into
Right.
real estate, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's actually what happened with my parents when I was a kid because they had a house they tried to rent out,
Mm-hmm.
and the tenants did something like $70K worth of damage in 3 weeks.
Oh.
They had a squirrel living inside the house with them that they were giving drugs to, and it totally ripped up the carpets. There was all kinds of
Whoa.
animal feces all over the place, and yeah, so they didn't ever try again. But there's definitely got to be ways to hedge against that. And I think maybe one of those ways might be landlord insurance to help you kind of protect against things like that.
Oh gosh, yeah. So I did have renter's insurance or landlord's insurance, and um, gosh, I can't remember the details now, but it definitely didn't even cover
Didn't cover it even close.
yeah, one of the big expenses at all. Like I probably spent, you know, in the tens, thousands range, and I think I got back like 1,000
Wow.
from insurance. Yeah. So the big lesson I learned on that one is once the tenant vacates, is to call the insurance company right away and have them go out and look at the property themselves. I don't know if that was a factor or not, but I was able to send them the photos that the property managers took after the tenant vacated, and that's what they kind of used in reference. And but I feel like if an insurance agent saw it firsthand, they probably would have been a little bit more sympathetic to the situation. So that's another learning lesson. Call your insurance company right away, have them come out, don't touch anything, don't do anything, and have them, do a report or take pictures or whatever they do.
Well, and I imagine one of the other things you could take away from that is be very careful about vetting your tenants.
Right. Most definitely.
And so it'd be good to figure out a process. And that I think that goes also back to what we'd mentioned before with partnering with someone who has experience.
Right.
So those people are going to have processes already that they've developed that they might even let you kind of copy the homework from. So that you can have a good vetting process on that end.
So in that case, I do have a property management company in place. I won't start that subject, but anyways, the other thing I would recommend if you're definitely out of state is to have the property management company do at least a semi-annual inspection, just to make sure things are looking good, things are fine. And definitely for sure, when the tenant is about to sign a new lease, go in and check again, make sure that they're, keep maintaining the property, up to speed. So that would be another advice to help try to curb this a little bit more. And then if you're in the area, you yourself, can go walk the property. You just have to, let your property manager know that you want to go, take a look, and, you could do it yourself. So, but that would be another tip I would recommend if you have a renter in place.
I think those are very excellent tips. And maybe it might not be things that people who are new to the space are even thinking about. And I think that's one of the reasons why we try to do things like this podcast and these interviews, is to kind of get this conversation going so that people know the questions to ask, because you don't know what you don't know.
And I would say the other, tip, and I know we hear it all the time, but this is just a real life example for me anyway. And hopefully, your listeners hearing it, it's also impressing upon them, but the importance of having some kind of nest egg or war chest for emergencies or things of this nature, so you can overcome it. Because if I didn't have the cash, most likely I would have had to try to sell the property in that condition, which would have, devalued the selling price significantly. So it's very, very important if you're keeping rentals and you're, liable for any of those kinds of repairs.
Yeah, so you want to be able to maybe set aside some of your cash flow every month, a certain percentage for things like routine maintenance and capital expenditures.
Right.
Or maybe a case where your renters trash your property.
Right. I think the rule of thumb is
a backup.
I think the rule of thumb is like 5%. something like that. But again, it depends on the age of your property,
Mm-hmm.
right? So older properties are probably going to need more repairs than newer properties. So just depends on the age and the condition.
And then there's some of those costs you can actually pass through to the tenant, things like utilities. But other ones you're going to want to set the money aside for when it happens, because it's going to happen. Properties break down. That's just the natural course of things.
Yep, most definitely. They do for sure.
Okay, well, cool. I really like that we've gone over these things today. One of the things I was kind of curious about are what are your plans for the future? What are the moves you're kind of taking to build up your portfolio, and what's that look like for you?
Well, that's actually why I'm in the program with Jesse, is to hopefully, learn that approach or figure out what that strategy looks like and have a little bit better clarity and direction of where to go from here. So on top of, keeping on top of my properties, I also have been dipping my toe, if you will, into wholesaling. And boy, that is a lot. It's a lot of work, effort, energy. Done a couple deals with my partner, and my partner's amazing. He's an amazing closer. But it's a lot. And so I know first of all, that's not my passion zone, if you will, because I work on the lead gen.
Right?
Yeah, I work on the lead gen part.
Okay.
And so it's very, I would say energy draining for me. And so I know that would be one of the roles that I would need to figure out how to supplement to try to help get the business in the right direction. But yeah, so I'm still learning, figuring that out as I go along to get this to, like I said, a more scalable process.
Very cool. And the Jesse that she mentioned, his name's Jesse Stanton. He leads a coaching course called the Growth Co. And the premise of the coaching course is to teach people how to buy properties without having to go through wholesaling or lending or some avenue first, but to be able to structure the purchases in such a way that you can kind of pay yourself to buy the properties and source private money from other investors.
Right. Yeah. I mean, when he shares his story, I felt like it was exactly my story, having a demanding W-2 where I had high accountability for the company. And it felt like I was just always on and trying to sneak in there time for wholesaling or Zooms, meetings, meetups, all this stuff that is important to setting up the foundation of your business. It's super challenging, and so I felt like just constantly drained and depleted. And so when I heard his story of what he did, and he sounds like he figured it out, that's what really resonated with me. So I'm very hopeful and looking forward to what we're going to learn in this process.
Yeah, myself as well. I'm excited. Big plans for how things are going to pan together. But I joined the whole real estate industry and basically entrepreneurship after being a blue collar worker, mostly because I needed to find a way to develop myself as a person, and I
Oh,
realized that it was a good vehicle for that. Right?
oh my gosh, yes.
It's like how do you make a person with a strong character or capable of doing things? Well, you have to give them a lot of problems. And so I figured there's going to be all kinds of unique and varied problems in this kind of an industry. And that's what made it exciting and appealing to me.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
But we'll see how it goes. I've definitely done a lot of character development in the last year or so.
Oh my gosh, me too. Let me tell you, I promise, like the person I was when I started sub 2 to the person I am today is a very different person. When I started sub 2, I don't think I was using any social media at
Yeah.
all. And I was the kind of person like, no, I don't want people to know me. No, I don't want my name out
You
there.
like
And
the anonymity, right?
right, right.
Yeah.
And then as I was in sub 2 and became more comfortable with the community and the importance of engaging there, and a story that Pace had told, like if you're serious about making this a business, not being in social media is just asking for you to not be successful. And
Mhm.
so I said, all right, I'm going to jump in. And I was super uncomfortable. And that's when he started the Project Forward challenge. And I got into podcasting. And again, that was uncomfortable and a learning lesson or growing lesson for me. But now I love it. I love hosting podcasts. I don't know about being interviewed, but I love hosting.
Well, it's definitely a different experience. It's kind of the same thing that happened for myself because I joined his Project Forward project that he was doing, and that's how I started my podcast. And it's definitely been an uncomfortable thing because, well, a little bit about my story is that I went through a traumatic head injury due to an
Oh,
assault.
oh
And so it
no.
was very hard for me to connect with people after that because there was
Oh,
one of them that had hurt
right.
me.
Oh,
And just joining Gator and Sub 2 has really helped a lot with the healing of that incident.
my
And so
gosh.
even if I never became a millionaire or made a lot of money, for me, the money that I invested in it has been a huge return. I'd say 500, 1,000% return. There's no price that I could really put on that.
Oh,
And so,
I feel exactly the same. I know. And well, first of all, I want to say, I'm sorry that you had to go through that experience, and I'm glad that you came out of it and fully recovered. I know you have emotional scars, it sounds like, but you're working your way through that. So I'm glad, you're at a better place now. Um,
thank you.
but yeah, I know I don't know if I should say this, but for anybody that is not in this headspace and not in this journey, um, it's very difficult to understand or measure the value that growth and confidence and just you know forward movement in yourself feels like, and it's worth all the money that I definitely invested, like 1000%.
I think I can distill it down to a single word. It's an
What?
adventure.
Yeah, oh my god. Right.
Yeah, it's an adventure. And
Yep.
it's wildly exhilarating and terrifying at the same time. But I wouldn't trade it for anything.
That is true. You're absolutely right.
But well, cool. I really appreciate you jumping on the show today. I don't think I have anything else to ask you for the audience at this time. But is there a place that anybody could reach out to you and connect with you?
Oh, sure. So I'm on Facebook. I'm sure if you look up Monique Aranda, I'll pop up, but you can message me there or on Instagram. And I'm at Monique_Aranda_REI on Instagram. So you can hit me up there. Also on my Instagram, I do have a link tree. So if you want to partner up, do any deals, have any deals, uh, every and any option is on that link tree, and you could send them my way and we could see if we could make anything happen.
Sounds like a plan. And definitely go ahead and put all these links into the description on the YouTube video. So if you're looking to connect with Monique, go ahead and check there. And like she said, she's got the link tree, so you'll have more options to connect with her after you find it on her Instagram channel. I really appreciate you coming on the show. And this has been the Pot of Gold podcast, where we talk about finances, wealth generation, and real estate investing. Thank you so much for tuning in. You all have a very good day.
Thank you. Bye.